Have you ever come across a piece of content that just didn't quite sit right with you and you wondered if anyone else was also bothered by it? Well, this happened to me last year. I came across a reel on Instagram by a productivity expert that I like and I respect. Now, he said following through on your own commitments is having personal integrity. Now, if you've listened to past episodes of mine or if you're on my email list, you might get a sense of why this message raises a red flag for me. And here's the thing, I started to actually write a post about this message, my reaction to this. And it was last year, kind of as soon as I saw it, but I didn't actually publish it. And instead, I chose to just sit back, think about my reaction, and whether this was more of just a personal trigger reaction I was having, or if it was genuinely something worth talking about publicly. Well, it turns out all these months later, I'm still thinking about it, and I find that it comes up in conversation, and I think it does matter. So today I'm sharing why I think this idea isn't just faulty, but can actually be harmful. So let me start by saying that I do not believe there is any harmful intent behind the message. In fact, let's start with the message and the intent, or at least the intent as I believe it. So, first, the message itself. It's that a lot of people will follow through on commitments they make to other people, but when they have their own commitments, they will tend to put off, delay, or brush aside. And following through on what you say you will do is personal integrity. So, in other words, keeping your own commitments is a form of personal integrity. On the surface, I can see why this message will land with some people. It's about honoring your commitments and it's about treating them as valuable as the ones that you keep to other people. It's about sticking to your plan, even when you might not feel like it on the days when you just don't want to. It's also a way to connect with somebody's desired identity, the person they want to be. You might hear that and think, yes, I want to be a person who keeps my commitments. I am a person with integrity, and doing what I say I'll do matters to me. Okay, so far, not so bad. But what happens when I rephrase this message a little bit and I say, not following through on your own commitments shows a lack of personal integrity? This is where my inner alarm bell starts to go off. It's when we invert it. And this is where I think language really matters and the words we use matter. So let's take a closer look at this word integrity, because that's really key here. Now, in the dictionary, I looked up a couple of different definitions. So Merriam-Webster talks about integrity as firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values. Oxford Languages says the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. So integrity is tied to morality, and morality is about right and wrong. Now, if you heard someone say, that person, they lack personal integrity, what do you think of? Maybe you think, well, that person's then probably the kind of person who might cheat or lie or steal, a person who lacks principles, or an unethical person. I don't know. That's what I think of. When I hear a person lacks integrity, I think about ethics and I think about someone who behaves unethically. Now, you might argue that keeping your word and doing what you'll say you'll do is a principle you want to abide by, but is it an ethical or moral one? And where do you actually draw the line? Is procrastinating on a personal project a moral failure, or is skipping your workout unethical? If you told me that you've been struggling to follow through on your morning meditation practice, and I said, well, you must lack personal integrity, how would that feel to you? And look, there are many reasons that a person struggles to follow through on their personal commitments that have nothing to do with morality. Does a person who knows what to do, but they lack the skills to do it, if they don't follow through, do they lack personal integrity? Or does a person with ADHD or maybe depression whose neurotransmitters are making it difficult to start a personal task lack integrity when they don't follow through? Or how about a person who hesitates because they've got a subconscious fear and they're holding themselves back? Do they lack personal integrity when they don't follow through? And you might argue that personal integrity is about doing whatever you can to solve these issues in order to see through your commitments. But I think it's harmful to imply that a lack of follow through means a lack of integrity. And as soon as you connect these two things, you connect following through to morals, then it becomes about good and bad. And I know firsthand the pain and the shame of not following through on your own commitments. And I know that it can be harmful to your self concept, to how you see yourself. And I know how easy it is to think, well, there must be something wrong with me if I just can't get it together. So, what happens when a person who's already struggling and likely feels shame about it hears that they lack personal integrity? What if instead of that message, they were told there are many reasons that you can struggle to follow through, and moral failures are not the reason, that you are not bad or wrong? The message matters and the words we use matter. And in this case, I think it's helpful to think maybe more about values instead of ethics. So when you're struggling to keep your own commitments, you are acting out of alignment with your values. Now, values vary from person to person. They're different depending on who you are. And you can make choices of how you spend your time based on your values. So when you make a commitment about what you will do with your time, but then you brush it aside, well, you are acting out of alignment. And let's say that you value health and you want to stick to a fitness plan. Well, when you skip workouts, it's not unethical, but it is out of alignment. And so it can feel bad, but it's not wrong. I think there's a difference there. And even if we think in terms of values, not following through isn't because you lack values, just like it's not because you lack integrity. You don't follow through because you are facing logical, biological, or psychological roadblock. And when you don't understand or see those reasons, you might start to think that you are wrong and that you've failed yourself or that you can't keep promises or commitments to yourself. You might start to believe that you lack integrity when you can't see or understand the reasons that you are struggling. But that's also the wrong conclusion. What you actually lack is an appropriate solution. This could be one of two things. First, you might not yet know the reason that you're not following through. Or two, you know the reason, but you haven't been able to solve it yet. So let's say that you do buy into this belief that you lack integrity. How do you go about solving it? Well, you would find a way to follow through, which means identifying the roadblock that you're facing and solving for it. That's the exact same approach, whether you believe the cause is that you are missing an appropriate solution or the cause is that you lack integrity. And I don't know about you, but I would much rather believe the cause is that I just haven't found the appropriate solution yet, rather than thinking that there is something morally wrong with me. Two paths with very different energy. Now, if you're listening to me and you think I'm having maybe a strong or outsized reaction to this message, well, it's because I do feel very strongly that the language matters. And if you don't see it that way, that is okay. But I'm sharing this because for a long time when I struggled to follow through on things, I did believe there was something really wrong with me, that I was broken and bad. And if somebody I respected came along and said, you lack personal integrity, that would compound the shame that I was already feeling inside. And it doesn't actually inspire me to search for a solution. It just kind of says, well, yeah, you're wrong. It would actually just reaffirm that I am the cause of my struggles. Now, instead, if someone were to say, you're not broken, wrong, or bad, you're just focusing on the wrong solution, here are some possible ways that You are getting stuck, so let's figure them out so that we can find something that works for you. Now, that is a message that I can get behind. And that's a message that can help me find and keep momentum.